All right, mic check, I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and I'm out there digging and grinding and looking and searching for people to bring on the show. And today we have a wonderful guest coming from the east coast of Canada, where we just were a few months ago for CanWeld, except we were in New Brunswick, but we were kind of close. We have Cat Marriott here coming to us from Nova Scotia. Is that where you are right now, Cat?
Yeah, I'm in Truro, actually. So, yeah.
Cool. So, Kat, are you a local lifer Nova Scotian?
Yeah, definitely local lifer. I did travel for work a little bit, but this is always going to be my home. So I don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
It's an interesting thing, like the East Coast. It's beautiful. I love it out there. It's I always hear people like looking to retire in the West Coast. And I'm like, I feel like if you had to pick a coast to retire, I would pick East over West. But everyone there seems to have like a time of their life where they like leave the East Coast to work. It's something I heard a lot of, right? Is that pretty standard for your area?
Yeah, there's quite a few people that I know that have done the same thing. I don't know if it's just like a point in your life where you feel like you need to explore more options. Work was kind of, I don't want to say scarce, but not well paying for a while in a lot of fields. So most people that wanted to dabble into the trades, they took off out west, got some experience out there and came back.
I know that when I was in northern Alberta a million years ago, there was more people working in the steel trades from Newfoundland in Alberta than there was in Newfoundland. And I remember,
I don't think you're wrong.
I remember reading
I met
that.
A lot of Newfoundlanders there.
I remember reading that stat, and I was like, "That's wild." But I don't think it's like that anymore. I was like during the big boom. I think it's kind of leveled out a bit, and there's quite a bit of big industry now that's kind of come back to the East Coast there.
Yeah, they're definitely calling quite a few people back home. It's a little bit of a push-pull now because I constantly hear advertisements for jobs out west, even on like the radio just in the city. But then, I mean, Irving also has a big pull to bring all those people back because they're hiring a ton of trades right now. So yeah, it's a bit of a battle.
So let's talk about you and your career path. So you're a welder by trade. That's what you are?
Yep.
And Red Seal journey person?
I am, Red Seal.
All right. So when did you start down this path? Like, were you a kid and you already knew you wanted to be a welder, or how did you find the trade of welding?
I did kind of know I wanted to be a welder when I was a kid. I really didn't know how to get there. I did spend a lot of years trying to figure out that path. I've fallen into the traditional roles of like retail. I did a little bit of like fast food service. I always worked a lot of jobs, and I found that I couldn't really kind of get those types of connections to be able to get into welding. I think the reason I really wanted to do it was because my dad and one of his good friends growing up, they used to build motorcycles in our garage. So I would see that. And even though they weren't welding, I kind of like had this visual in my mind of like, okay, well, I don't want to just put the puzzle pieces together. I want to make the puzzle pieces that they're putting together. So I think that's kind of where it started for me. But I kind of hit a bit of a roadblock. I was trying to get into any type of construction trade just to kind of have that base of a skill set. I was given an opportunity by a gentleman who put me with some insulators, which was really, I mean, to each their own. If you like that, that's great. I didn't enjoy it very much, but I stuck through it because there were a lot of connections on the job sites. And I moved on from that. I must have applied to a job out west for 5 months straight. I think I applied every week. They were probably like, this girl obviously needs a job. Like, let's just give her a job. So I started working out there. Again, not anything to do with welding, but I kind of figured, I'm working this hard here in Nova Scotia. I'm not making the amount of money to even be able to pay for school. So I need to go make some money. So that's when I went out west. I was climbing inside pressure vessels on the oil fields, removing catalyst from them. It was a very dirty physical job, but I mean, it paid for school in a sense, I guess. I came back home. I did shutdowns, turnarounds for 3 years, and then I came back home and I joined the Women Unlimited group, which was like a pre-course into trades. You get to kind of dabble into a few different things. I picked metal trades, and I wasn't really sure if I wanted to continue on with metal fabrication at the end of it. So I knew I wanted to weld. So that was my first choice. Metal fabrication was my second. So Women Unlimited was about 3 months. And then I started the weld diploma program right after that. So I didn't even actually get to strike an arc until I started in Women Unlimited. That was the first time I welded. And that was in 2017.
So all these years of trying to get into welding, for me, it's hard to wrap my head around why it was so difficult for you to do it. You know, like, we're always talking about the barriers. What are the barriers people have that stops them from getting into where we need them, which is in the welding world? We need welders like crazy. So, you know, coming out west, I live out west. I live in Saskatchewan. Out here, if I want to be a welder, it might be generalizing a bit, but really, I just got to like walk out to the street. There's always welding work that I can just kind of fall into. You know, I started welding in a shop without an apprenticeship at all, just as a laborer, and worked my way up. That's very common in the West. But what was stopping you from being able to walk into a shop in Nova Scotia or the community college? Like, you know, Tony Rose is there, the program head at NSCC. They got welding programs. They got apprenticeship. What was stopping, you know, Cat from being able to pursue those angles?
So I actually tried that, and I got chuckled at quite a few times. I got some weird looks. I walked out to shops. I applied to jobs. I handed out resumes personally. I applied online. Basically what I was told was that the experience just isn't there. And I was pretty much begging for someone to just, you know, give me an opportunity and I can show you that, you know, I'll work and, I will be a good welder. I'll do whatever you say. I'll work for next to nothing if you'll teach me. But they're just like, I don't know if it's, and I hate to say like, oh, it's because you're a girl, but I don't know if they kind of had that weird feeling of like, well, I don't really know if it's going to work out. Like it's kind of a coin toss for them in a sense. But I did get a lot of like, go back to school, little girl, and you maybe get some experience and then come back.
Anybody, like, I mean, guy or girl or them, they, whatever. It's always a coin toss hiring someone.
Yeah.
I don't see what the difference would be, but I mean, that's my frustration with the world. But, you know, what about the college programs in Nova Scotia? You know, like we hear about the funding that's going into the Maritimes. We hear about all this money that's going into trades programs. Why couldn't you just sign up for an apprenticeship program there and just get it kicked off right off the top?
So when I got into NSCC, we still had to pay tuition. I know now that's changed and they're really trying to get tradespeople into the school, get them the skills that they need to get out into the work field. But we didn't, that wasn't an option for us. And on top of that, there was probably like a 3 to 4 year waiting list for welders at that time. So I was like, okay, well, I have X amount of years to wait for school, save some money, and pay for school at the same time. Like another big thing for me was I've been on my own since I was 15. So I lived alone. I paid my rent. I paid my car payment. So taking funds away from that to pay for school, there was no such thing as extra. There's no saving. There's no nothing. So I had to leave. I felt like I worked 2-3 jobs at one point.
That's fair.
For a long period, and I still didn't really feel like I was getting any further ahead. I was just burning the candle at both ends. So, I took off. I saved up a little bit of money and I paid for school. I felt like if I didn't go to school, I wouldn't have gotten hired by anybody.
And what was the experience for you coming out west? You know, because I have the bias of being a Westerner where work is always plentiful. You know, we always got piles of work out here in the West. It's always good paying jobs. Like we complain about wages out here and we're getting paid double what the rest of the country is getting paid. And we're, you know, complaining about it. What was it like for you from Nova Scotia coming out? I assume you went to Alberta. I'm not sure which batch you went to, but you know.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was a crazy experience for me, honestly, because I'm used to pretty much working like a dog for pennies. So when I went out there, even though our pay wasn't as great as other people, like we weren't a trade, we were considered technicians. So that bumped us down the list immediately. But for me, I felt like I hit a gold mine. I was like, what is this place? Like, are you kidding me? So I would literally there was no moment in time where I would stop working. I would be picking up duct tape off the ground. I didn't want to get caught not doing something because working here, you really they're paying you very little, but you're nonstop. So I did get a sense of wow, people stand around a lot, and I just didn't want to get caught doing that. So I thought,
you hear that, Westerners? Don't get caught standing around.
But the experience for me was great. I met a lot of really great people out there, and it's just the culture was totally different, and I feel like I needed that. But also in the sense of safety, I had no clue of how stringent that was, how important it is to be on top of that stuff on a regular basis until I went out there and they explained the why behind it based on your position and what you're doing. And then I came back to Halifax and I was like, man, we are in the Stone Ages.
Well, it goes with the money, right? Like the money brings the safety, it brings the systems, right? And it's an ebb and flow. Like if people were out here in the West prior to the 90s, it was Wild West out here too. And then the big boom hit, right? Because we came out of a drought in the 80s and gas was worth nothing. And it was it wasn't great out here then. And then the boom hit and all of a sudden, you know, the 100-year-old mine has to get rebuilt because now it's got to be safe. So when people started showing up in the 2000s, they're like, wow, everything out here is brand new. It's like, well, it is now, you know, now that the boom hit, but I guess the East Coast hasn't really had that boom moment where the money just floods in, right?
No, I think the only place that's even comparable to that is Irving, where it's a nice new facility. I mean, they do preach safety, but that's a whole other...
It's a different vibe.
Can of words. There's not a lot of places like that around here. We are building. I noticed there's a lot of things that are changing here. I think Nova Scotia pretty much got a swift kick in the arse for a lot of things. And now they're trying to be a little bit more sophisticated and on par with the rest of the country. But we are behind. We're definitely behind in a lot of stuff.
Why didn't you think about getting into the welding program in Alberta while you were there? Because they always had lots of spots there.
Yeah. I don't really have an answer for that. I guess I just kind of was doing my time and then
head down, keep working.
I was just kind of on that track of this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home, save up X amount of dollars, go home, not have to be a starving student while I go to school and just finish my program. And when I went into the Women Unlimited program, one of the biggest things that they had mentioned was if you pass the program and you're in good standings, you don't have to wait on that waiting list anymore at NSCC. There's a reserved seat for you. So that kind of, you know,
that's a nice carrot on a stick. Yeah.
Yeah, big time. So I was able to immediately start right into the diploma program, and I got hired at Irving the day after graduation. So they kind of had a deal with them. If you can bring in X amount of women, they uphold a certain standard and they graduate, then we'll take them on. So that's what we did.
The 2-year program that you took at Nova Scotia, community college. What was that like? You finally got past the waiting program, finally get into the classes. Were you one of a few women? Was it pretty even classes? Was there lots of representation? Tell us about that journey.
So after Women Unlimited, we were just basically thrown into like the normal class. There was about 5 of us girls that moved on from Women Unlimited into welding. And then there were 2 other girls that had just regularly enrolled into the diploma program. So there were actually more of us than I thought there were going to be, which was kind of nice.
It's like usually it's a class of 14 or something like that per group or something. So,
Yeah, I think we actually had a class of, I'm pretty sure it was close to 30 almost. We had a pretty big class.
Yeah.
But it was great. Like pretty much everybody got along. Everyone was super helpful. Our teachers were awesome. They were just very down to earth. They had obviously their own life experiences with welding. So they kind of had little tidbits of information that they could give you. And some people were able to fast track in the actual welding aspect of it, but we're kind of struggling with the book side of things. I feel like I kind of fell in that category too, because I graduated from high school in 2009. I didn't even go back to school until the Women Unlimited program in 2017. So I was like, what is studying? What is taking notes? What am I doing here? But it was, I found that the teachers were extremely helpful, and it was very focused on your trade. It wasn't like this stuff that you see in high school and it's like, oh, we're learning about parallelograms. When the hell am I going to use that in my life? But it pertains to your trade. So you stay more engaged and you're more interested in that. And I feel like that's where you have more successful people coming out on the other end.
Yeah, and to defend parallelograms, I've used you many times, Mr. Parallelogram. No parallelograms were hurt in the making of this episode, but algebra is important, kids. Come on. So you got you're getting through the program. You're 2 years now. You're telling me that the 2 years was easy sailing. You struggled with a little bit of the theory. I think that's very common for students. I taught for a number of years, and that was generally out of a class of, I'd say if I had 20 students, I'd have 10 that would not really dig the theory. And then I'd always have 1 or 2 like incredibly good at theory students. And it was good because then you get them to help the other kids too, and try to get them all to like play nice and help each other. What was it like for you in the community during your schooling?
We did have little study groups. So just like you said, the smart kids were helping the not so smart kids, and we all kind of meshed together regardless. I started out really struggling. I came out with honors. So that changed over time. And it was a very short period of time too, because I don't know what it was. I feel like in the beginning, I kind of didn't really know whether I was coming or going. I was still working several jobs at the time outside of going to school, even though they said it's not a good idea. I still needed to keep a roof over my head. I tried to make my main focus the program, but I found I was constantly taking my binder and all my notes and stuff to my job, and I'm like sneaking studying in the back, and it was a little crazy. And I did a lot of back shift for my job too. Like I worked for 2 different security companies. My first year weld teacher actually hired me to do some work for him. He runs a weld company outside of school. So I did a little bit of work with him, and I was working down at the container piers, basically just as a laborer. So whenever I had some spare time, I would go down, sit on the bench. Hopefully they have a job for me. And I think that was me like trying to manage my time in the beginning of like where I really struggled. And then once I figured out, okay, I can do these shifts at these times, study at this time, go to school at this time, and everything's going to work out. And it all did. It all just kind of panned out the way I had hoped and dreamed it would. And it just, I don't know, for me, it was a struggle in the beginning. I felt like I was a mess of a person, not knowing what was even happening.
Now, how frustrating was it for you to have been this, you were a young girl looking at your dad and your uncle building things, and you're like, I want to be a builder. And then you start deciding, I want to be a welder. You go off, travel to another province, make your money, come back for school. Okay, I'm in school. I'm going to be what I've always wanted to be. And then it's not easy. You struggle. Like, I'm sure you would have had thoughts in your head, like imagining over the last number of years that you're going to start school and it's just going to, like, you're just going to kick, you know what I mean? And it didn't really pan out that way. How did that feel?
It was a cut at the knees, I'll tell you that. Especially like thinking about how hard I worked to get there, but I just kept reassuring myself, like, it's not over yet. I still have to work hard to continue through this, to get the job, not only to get the job, to keep the job if I get it when I'm there, So it's just like a mental game that I have to keep saying over and over again, that it's always going to be hard. It's never going to come easy, and you kind of create your own environment that way. And it's just, I found it a lot less stressful once I kind of done that for myself. And I was like, okay, getting into school, yeah, I thought it was going to be this. It's not, but you know what? Here we go. We're still taking steps forward. We're still studying. We're still doing it. Dropping out for me wasn't an option. I'm too stubborn. I'm way too stubborn. There was no way I was leaving that place. It's like, you have no idea what I went through to get here. I am staying.
And it's even frustrating sometimes to have such a dream of doing something, and then it's not easy. It's hard, and you realize that it's going to be hard. And then you look around you and there's someone who doesn't even really want to be there, or they didn't care. And it's easy for them. And you're like, okay, like, why is this so easy for you? And you don't even care. Like,
yeah, we had a couple of those, especially people that just didn't even care to the point that they stopped showing up to theory, to shop, to everything. And it was like, I considered myself a fairly decent welder at the time. And I felt like if I wasn't there every single day, like, I would drop off in a second. So I couldn't understand how this was coming so naturally for them. And they're just like, meh, whatever. My parents said I have to be here. And it's like, what?
Yeah, no, that is always a tricky thing. And I love your point where you're like, this is the next stage and it's going to be hard, because I have kids ask me all the time, when does it get easier? Bro, never. It never gets.
Doesn't.
Life's not meant to be easy. That's not the thing. Like, it's not easy for the birdies outside. It's not easy for the caterpillar. It's not easy for any living thing on this planet. It's a struggle for everything: to eat, survive, stay warm, have water. Like, these are the things that we need. And in our society as humans, to do that, we need to work, get educated, have jobs. It doesn't get easier. I mean, maybe if I was born into like the Kardashian family or something, or like if I was born super rich, it'd be easy. But I bet even super rich, spoiled people still got weird problems that we don't even understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think I want to understand either.
Like,
to be honest.
No, this is the wrong toothpaste. I don't like this one. Like, I don't know, like, just weird rich people issues.
Yeah, definitely.
So you finished the program 2 years, which is that's a long program. Most of the programs around the country are 1 year max. Like, that's usually what it is. So as a 2-year program, do you come out with your level 1 and 2, or are you like already like right to level 3? How does it work?
You come out as a second-year apprentice, and then you collect your hours until you're ready for your third block.
Right. And then I was just looking at the numbers. How many hours is it for journey person in Nova Scotia?
Oh gosh, you got me. 5,400.
Is it 5,400?
I think it's 54.
Most of them are around that, but let me see. I think I might have my little chart right in front of me. It's 8,100 hours if you don't go to school, 5,400 hours if you do. Oh, and it's expensive. Yeah. It's $740 to challenge for these. Oh, that's expensive.
Yeah.
So sorry. So you finished, you went back to work. What was the first job? Like, this is level 2. You went straight to Irving from there?
Straight to Irving from there. And they kind of like put you through a series of tests. They have a testing facility there, so you can update your tickets and do all that stuff. But when they hire new people, that's kind of like their little trial period. And they throw a couple projects at you and they're like, weld this. And they don't really say anything on like what they want, what kind of quality or standard they're looking for. They're just like, here's this, you weld it, and you bring it out and you see what they have to say about it. There's a lot of stuff that I had no idea coming out of school. And I was just like, man, am I even meant to, like, am I a welder? Like, this is pretty bad. But, you get the hang of things pretty quick. I finished my projects and I was out on the floor. I wasn't really partnered up with a Red Seal ever in my career, but I was put on a crew where like Red Seals were available. So if I had questions, I could go to people, but there was never a situation that it was like, hey, you're
direct
gonna
mentorship, yeah.
Yeah, it was literally like, you're a welder now, go weld. So that's pretty much.
And for the
what I
people
did.
that are listening, can you explain what Irving is? What do they do there?
We build ships for Canada. So we're doing the Arctic offshore patrol vessels. We have the CSC ships that are going to be coming soon. We just actually did a ship launch, I think on Saturday is when they launched it. So yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of crazy welding too that I couldn't even imagine doing unless I worked there. Like, I had no idea what that place was all about. I was just like, yeah, I'm getting hired with Irving. And I got there and I was like, holy this stuff is huge.
Well, there's
like,
a lot of 1-inch plates. There's a lot of like thick bevels. You know, I've done some shipbuilding test plates on both sides as a welder and then as an invigilator. And, you know, there's one that was like a 14-inch coupon, 1-inch plates with 30-degree included angles. And it was open root. You had to do a flux core open root with a fill and cap. But you could back gouge. So you can back gouge that test plate. And I thought, like, it's going to take all day just to fill this weld. Like, I mean, once you get the root, you get the root. That's fine. But I got an inch of weld I got to fill here. Like, I'm just going to have to pile a spool into this thing. And that takes a long time. But they told me that a lot of the shipbuilding welds are multi-pass, thick welds, big joints.
Yeah, they are. And we do a lot of ceramic welding too. So that kind of saves you from the back gouging. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot. Like you go through a lot of gloves. Let's just say that. Gloves and heat shields. You go through a lot of those. It's
you starting to get the old leather knuckles yet?
Oh, it's brutal. They shrivel up to nothing, and it's just crazy. But I've had my knuckles blister through my gloves at one point because it's just, you're like, I just got to finish the weld. I don't care how hard it is.
Now.
Yeah. You get in that zone, and it's crazy the things you'll do to yourself to finish that job. But yeah, it's pretty intense there. But I like the challenge. I like the workload.
What was the biggest, I guess, shock going from school? And let's break this into two pieces. What was the biggest shock for you going from school to Irving? Like going from learning to weld on these little safe 6-inch plates and you do them all day to getting into a shop where there's all these crazy welds. So what was that first experience like for you? Like, were you like, this is mind blowing, or this is awesome, or I want to run away?
You just said it. Those little 6-inch plates, I could not weld more than 6 inches because of those plates. And I was just like, man, what is that? I would stop and then scooch my butt over and then continue again and then scooch over. And the guy behind me was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you got to go like 3 feet in one shot here.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do a meter, man.
I felt a little underexperienced there for the first few weeks, but because there is so much welding, it's so steady and it's all day every day, like you pick that stuff up pretty quick. So I was feeling pretty good after a little bit, but not so good in the beginning at all. And
the second part of this question, same question, but as a woman in the trades. So going as a female student where you had 7 girls in a class, which was that's a pretty good number. finishing out the program to going to Irving, which I assume is probably like the rest of the country with like less than 5% women. Did you find any obstacles or issues as a female entering the workforce?
Honestly, everyone was pretty great. I actually found there were more girls there than I expected.
Oh, good.
I mean, it does get kind of cliquey sometimes because we weren't the only group of Women Unlimited girls that went in there. So there was like a previous group that had gone in a couple years before us. So, they kind of...
That was Team Alpha, your Team Beta.
Yeah. But they were like the trial period. And then we were like, okay, maybe we'll let one more group in. But it's because they've built those relationships with each other throughout Women Unlimited, through school and into hiring and working together. I don't want to say it's cliquey, but you can tell how close they are and how they still cherish those friendships, which is great. But they're all fantastic women. Like, I don't really think that there are a lot of issues in that place. Like, obviously there are in every single place.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like,
maybe it's just
more
not you.
So depends on the person. No,
Yeah.
I feel like I have serious resting face. So people are probably like, that I'm not even, no way. But I don't know if that's just the vibe I give off or what. Like, maybe I just have a look that burns into people's soul and they're like, I'm not, no eye contact. But
like walking by the tiger cage at the zoo, you're like, oh, he's looking at me. Uh-oh.
Yeah, but maybe it's just me and I usually have my lid down and I'm not really paying attention to what's going on around me.
Well, clicks are natural for work. Like, as a supervisor, manager, foreman for so many years, there was always that, oh, I hate the clicks at work. What are we going to do about them? And honestly, from my experience, nothing. You're not going to do anything about them because friendships happen. Groups happen.
Yeah.
Like, humans naturally are going to do this. And you can't expect everyone at work to get along with each other. That's just not realistic. You just got to be professional. Like, if you don't get along, you don't get along. Doesn't matter. You're not going home with them. It's like, see ya work, buy work, leave work at work, right? But some people struggle with that a little bit more than others. So.
Yeah. Well, I think some of them do hang out with each other outside of work too. So that might be
just friends
where they can't leave certain things at the door. But
yeah, whatever.
My priorities have changed there. I've got a little guy now. So I am literally like work, home, and I boogie home because I want to snuggle that little boy.
All right, well, let's take a break right now for our sponsors, and then we'll be back after the break to talk about, I want to hear about the family. I want to hear about the little boy, what that's like in your life as a welder. And I also want to hear about some of the things that you got going on, with welding, but not necessarily at Irving. Just curious. So don't go anywhere. We're here with Cat, and we're going to be right back after these messages.
The CWB Association is new and improved and focused on you. We offer a free membership with lots of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. We are committed to educating, informing, and connecting our workforce. Gain access to your free digital publication of the Weld magazine, free online training, conferences, and lots of giveaways. Reach out to your local CWB Association chapter today to connect with other welding professionals and share welding as a trade in your community. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Join today and learn more at cwbassociation.org.
And we are back here on the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron. Thanks for tuning in. We have Cat Marriott here coming to us from Truro, Nova Scotia. Isn't someone famous from Truro? Isn't like somebody like a hockey player or something? Isn't it somebody?
I think there's like some country singer or something.
Yeah, there's
maybe.
a name. That name rings a bell. Straight from Truro, Nova Scotia.
I'm going to have to Google that now.
But I'm just doing the timeline in my head here, Kat. You started your apprenticeship in 2017 or Women's Unlimited. It's a 2-year program that would have led to 2019. So you got hit with COVID during your apprenticeship, right? Right in between block 2 and 3. So how did you finish? Like, what wasn't it? Everyone stay home. No one's moving, or How did you deal with that?
Yeah, we got shut down in March. They were calling certain trades back based on seniority because the union and all that stuff, which I was obviously at the bottom of the totem pole because I had just gotten hired.
Mhm.
So I didn't get that call anytime soon. I stayed off until August is when I got called back. So I was
wow.
off for quite a bit.
You would have gotten the EI though, still, wouldn't you have, or the COVID cash?
Yeah, or that CERB or
Yeah.
whatever they call it. That, yeah, the trick money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we did get that. But I was more concerned about my hours. Like I
Yeah.
was so gung ho
100%.
with my apprenticeship. I was like, yeah, I had a timeline built.
Yeah,
It was
go
like,
to
this is
work,
when I'm
get
getting
the
my Red
hours, do your
Seal.
third block, get it done. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was pretty shot down after that. But once I got back, I hunkered down on the overtime. I applied for everything I could get. Early starts, stay lates, weekends, like anything I could get my hands on, I would work it. And then I think I got my hours in October of 2021, and I ended up getting my Red Seal in November 2021.
So you got your hours, you went back for your third block and then wrote the IP right after, basically.
Yeah, we did them back to back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was stressful.
So, well, the Red Seal exam, the IP for the people, and for the people in the U.S. that listen, our apprenticeship Red Seal, which is like the highest standard of welding, is 3 years of school, basically. How was that third block for you after being out for a year, going back for that last 7-8 week block? And I'm not sure what the block length is in Nova Scotia, but that's basically just practicing for the IP, right?
Yeah, it is 7 weeks. I found it hard because we would test every week on the modules that we were going over, plus trying to study for
the theory,
the level 3 exam. So it's like, okay, I'm studying for all these little tests that are happening every Friday. And, but even some of that wasn't really pertaining to the exam. So I was kind of like in that realm of like, do I care about these little weekly tests, or do I just hone in on this exam? But it's like, you got to get through the tests to get to the exam.
Yeah,
so
if you fail the test, you can't write the exam. Yeah,
exactly. So it kind of went back to my like, I don't know how to study. I can't do this anymore. And I went through that little phase again. And I was like, no, we've got to hunker down. We got to do this. So I did a lot of note taking. I downloaded a couple programs on my iPad actually that really helped me with notes visually, because I find I can read like the same sentence or even paragraph over and over and over again and not process anything. So I was able to like color code stuff.
I use a lot of color in my notes too. Yeah.
Yeah, I uploaded a lot of the modules and I was able to like highlight those in a program on the iPad as well. So I could have the different colors, the module right there. I wasn't flipping through a book. I don't know why that just didn't work for me, but it didn't. And I emailed myself notes so that anytime I wanted to look at them, I could just open my phone, open my iPad, take a look at them no matter what I was doing. I didn't have to be like, oh, I don't have my book on me, or I didn't bring my notepad, or I didn't bring this. So it was always available. I made sure that regardless of what I was doing, it was available to me at all times. So that was a huge game changer for me. But after that exam, I was just like, I think the worst of it was waiting for the results. I was like, I just did the exam and this is taking so long. It took like about a week or more. Yeah. And I was like, this is agony. I can't handle this. You need to tell me now.
So do you, because it's different in every province. So in Nova Scotia, do you do your written exam and then the practical exam the following day? Or do you do the practical exam, then the written exam? Or is there a space in between?
We had our third block exam, and then there was like a brief space in between where we had our our practical and our Red Seal exam. So the practical and the Red Seal, I think what was supposed to happen wasn't what actually happened, just based on COVID, shop time hours, like availability and stuff like that. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure we wrote our Red Seal exam first and did our practical right after, which was like the very next day. So there wasn't even time to know if you passed your Red Seal exam or not to move on to that. So even the results for the Red Seal exam took several weeks after that. So that was
sometimes I think that's a better system. Like in Saskatchewan, you do the practical first, and then the next day is the written exam. So that's tough. Like if you pass the practical, you're over the moon, because you find out right away when you pass the practical, because they bend the plates right in front of you. So you're like, right? Because they didn't break, you're good. So you're like, yay, I won. You want to go out and celebrate and party, and we have to be like, no, not yet. You have to do the written exam tomorrow. Don't go party yet. The other side of it is, if you fail your practical exam, then they're all like, oh, life sucks. I want to jump off a bridge. And they don't want to go write the exam the next day because they're so depressed. It's like, no, you still got to write the exam, because passing one of the two is still better than passing none of the two.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can always just come back and redo the other piece. And I would rather honestly redo the practical than the written, because that's where a lot of people get hung up on. A lot of welders get hung up on the written exam, and they'll do it over and over and over. Practical exam, you usually will get it first or second try once you really know what it is. Like, it's that vertical open root 60-10 that gets people. The tie-in on the TIG gets people, but the rest is pretty easy, like.
Yeah, I tried to exempt a couple of those, actually, because I already had a couple tickets from working at the yard, but I went and did that pressure ticket, like the plate, the ASME ticket, because I was like, I get overwhelmed when it comes test time. I get test time jitters, whether it's written, whether it's a weld test. I am like shaking like a leaf on a good day. And I tried to test for those prior to the exam so I could exempt them from the exam, so that there was very little testing that I had to do. Another big thing that I really thought I was going to fail this. I haven't touched a torch since school, because you're not allowed to do that at the yard. The fitters do the burning, the welders do the welding. So I was like, we're going to see how this goes.
Didn't you get time to practice your torch cutting in those 7 weeks?
We did, but I spent a lot of my time practicing to try and get those extra tickets to exempt. So I was like, oh, whatever, it's just a cutting test. Like, I'll have one full day to practice it. And then when I realized they only had 2 torches set up and there was a bunch of people already practicing, I was like, damn, I missed my shot to practice. They're already in there all over it. So I was like, oh, we'll see what happens come test day.
And how did the test go? First try, both sides, written and practical? Good job.
Yep.
And what was your mark, or do you not want to tell? Because 70 is a pass. That's all that matters, right?
I think I got a 71, honestly. I'm pretty sure it was like literally just past the threshold. I was like, I'm in.
70 is 100. So that's what they say. 70 is 100.
Yeah. Pass is a pass.
And, out of your class of third years that were going for it, how'd the class do? Because, sometimes there's classes that everyone does well, sometimes, or did you not really keep track to see how everyone else did?
I think for the most part, like, everyone in the class did fairly well. I know there was maybe 1 or 2 people that had to go back and redo the written part, but I don't think anyone failed the actual practical. Like, the weld portion of it was pretty tickety-boo for a lot of people. It's that written exam. That's what gets it. A lot of people. It's crazy. And some people can't even pass the 3rd block exam to even get to the Red Seal. And I honestly did find that exam much harder than the Red Seal. I don't know why. But they took that exam away, I do believe. So now there is no 3rd block exam. After I went through all that agony the following year behind me, they take it away. So it's just a Red Seal now. So there's no 3rd block exam.
Yeah, it's the same as
I think that's for iron workers as well.
It's for a lot of the trades. They got rid of like the comprehensive 3rd year, You still have all the little module tests throughout the year, and you still have to pass
Yeah.
third year, but there's not like the one massive end year-end exam, because the idea is like you're going to do this massive year-end exam and then immediately do a massive Red Seal exam. Like, what's the point of having two of them back to back? And I get that, you know.
Yeah. Well, especially for tradespeople, like most of us are visual and we're not that great when it comes to studying and all that little intricate stuff that's like part of the books that we don't deal with on a regular basis. So to kind of pull back and get back into the groove of that, it's a lot. It is a lot. So I'm kind of happy that they got rid of it. I wish they did it for me, but I mean, it is what it is.
So now, you know, you're 3 years in at Irving, you got your Red Seal. You know, what is it that you do now on the daily? Are you still on your knees grinding or welding every day like you were, scooching 6 inches at a time? Or are you a little bit higher up the ladder? You know, what's going on there and what's the plan?
So when I first got hired, I pretty much stayed on the same crew for the better part of 3 years. And we were doing like all the unit joins. And then once those were built up into mega blocks, the mega blocks go outside and they get joined together to make a ship. So we were doing pretty much all full pen welding, tank work. I was small. And I got shoved in a lot of cracks and crevices that I don't think a lot of people have even seen in that yard. But it is a lot of full pen, like heavy welding. Now, since I've returned from maternity leave, I was in a bit of a different location, which is, I mean, sometimes the fit ups aren't that great there either. Like you're still getting stuff that it's like, come on, but it's a lot easier. It's less strenuous, I would say. The places I'm at aren't nearly as tight and crazy and out of control as the places I've been when I first got hired.
Yeah. And what was like, no, you got back to work and apparently your angry face didn't scare everyone away because you have a baby. So somebody stuck it out. Somebody stuck it out. Someone didn't get scared and you became a mom. So you get your Red Seal. You know, did you get pregnant right after, or were you already like pregnant towards the end of that?
So that was kind of like what we always chatted about. Was I was pretty adamant on my career just because I worked so hard to get there. I spent so many years to get to where I was that I was like, you know, I want my Red Seal before I have a baby. So I got my Red Seal in November 2021. Like I said before, I found out I was pregnant March 2022.
So you were on it. You're on it. You're ready to go.
Yeah. It lined up pretty good. I mean, not that we were like, all right, it's time now. It just kind of happened like that. So we were more than happy. We ended up, because I was living in a bachelor at the time and we have 2 big dogs and a cat. And I was like, we're not going to fit. We're just not going to fit. This is pretty simple math here. So we had to find a house during the pandemic prices, and that's how we wound up in Truro.
Is it less expensive to live in Truro than, say, Halifax?
Yeah, but it's still pretty crazy.
Well, that's one thing. I bet the housing prices out here are more than out there, because it's out here like that's one thing. It's the houses have gotten crazy expensive. I'm glad I bought mine a while ago, and every now and then we're thinking about, let's buy a new one. It's like, but then I'd be so in debt again forever. Like, I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I'm living that right now.
Well, you're young. You got lots of time. Don't worry about it. It's a future cat problem.
Yeah.
So you have a baby and you go back to work. What's it like being a mom now? You know, with the the steel-toed boots on every day and out the door. What's that in mom life?
I struggled. I definitely sobbed my first day going back to work. I didn't want to leave him. I mean, I love welding, but there's that pull apart. Like that's my child, you know. And I took the 12 months of mat leave. So, and my pregnancy got a little rough around the end. So I left just shy of a month early before giving birth. So I had to go back when he was 11 months. So he wasn't even quite a year old yet.
Mhm.
And I was just like, this is way too soon. And I found myself like running off to the bathroom to check my phone. Like, what did he eat? When did he nap? Like, send me pictures. What's going on? Is he smiling? Like, I was just total helicopter mom for the first little while. And then I had to, take it down a notch. Like, yeah, he's in good hands. I know he's in good hands.
Well, I know parents go through that. Like, I mean, it would be a weird person to be like, I'd rather be at work than with my kid. You know what I mean? Like having the day, like, I mean, if we all won the lottery the day your kid is born, it's like perfect, right? But the part is that you got to go to work now, and you kind of have to work more now, because when you're not with a kid, you're like, oh, I'm sick, I don't care, take a day off. Or, you do the mental math. Do I got enough for rent? Do I got enough for the car? Do I got enough for beer and smokes? Yeah, all right, I can blow this Friday off. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But when you have a kid, then every day matters even more, right? So as much as you want to be home and be involved in kids' life, to be a good parent, you have to not be. It's a weird dynamic, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. I saved up some vacation days. So I took a couple days off here and there. He did get sick, so I spent that time with him because mom guilt. I was like, oh, I shouldn't be at work if my child's homesick. So I took those days off. I would take random days off here and there to just to spend time with him because I missed him. I didn't want to be away from him. But I went back to work with 3 weeks vacation because after you work there for so long, you get extra time off. So I had hit my 4 years last June from when I was already on maternity leave. So I ended up, like, we do a Christmas shutdown every year. So I think the last day that the yard is open is the 20th or the 21st of December. And I talked to my supervisor and I was like, hey, how much vacation do I have left? And he's like, well, actually you have 3 weeks and you use 5 days of it. So I was like, well, tomorrow's my last day. See you later. And I worked that one day and I booked the rest of vacation. So I'm off until the new year. And I was so happy that I was able to save those days because I mean, to me, it still is too early to kind of be away from him, but it was a nice ease back into work. Like I got back September 18th. So, I mean, we're just in December now. Yeah. So like I did a little bit of time and now I'm like, all right, I'm done till the new year. So it's a good thing for me and him. But yeah, I'm definitely looking for any and every excuse to stay home with my kid.
I used to pull sick days for my kids and be like, you know what, kids, do you guys feel like going to school? Like it'd be a morning where I'd be like, they'd be dragging their butts and they didn't want to get it ready. And I was a single dad. So I was like, you know what? How's about I just call the school and be like, you know what? They're both sick. And I'd call work and be like, oh, I'm sick too. And we would just go like to the movie theater and watch movies and like go to the zoo or something and be like, yeah, let's, screw society. There's nothing wrong with this. This is fine.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Good for you. I'm going to be that someday.
Yeah. Just be like, yeah, it's all right. We can just well, I mean, grade 4, my kids are 4 years apart. So it was like grade 4 and kindergarten or whatever. What are you learning? Like, you don't go to school for a day. It's not like, oh no, you're not going to be a doctor now. Like, it's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I don't take it that seriously. And well, I don't take any system really that seriously. So that's maybe on me, but being the weird person I am, being like, meh, you'll be fine.
I'm sure they cherish that time with you more than anything now.
Well, my daughter's a teacher now, so obviously it worked out. My son's in the trades, it is what it is. Neither of them turned out to be a welder though. Well, you can't win them all, I guess.
Sound a little disappointed.
Well, my dad was a welder. I'm a welder. A third generation welder would have been cool, but I got a couple nieces now that are in there, they're coming up on preteens. Maybe I can talk to. I had one of them work with me last summer in the shop. She was pretty interested. We made some cool stuff and try to get them to not be scared of the tools, But I'm waiting to be a grandpa now, bro. Like I can't wait. I'm gonna get a grandpa. I'm gonna raise the next. That'll be the next super welder of the universe. You're gonna make spaceships.
That's awesome. I can't wait.
When you look at your little boy, are you like, future welder? Or are you like, no, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer?
Honestly, I don't know. I would love it if he was a welder. That would be great.
Yeah.
I'm sure his dad wants him to be a pipe fitter too, but
Oh, did you marry a pipe fitter?
Yeah.
Oh, how could you, Cat? I thought you were legit. Oh no. Scrap the episode. Scrap
It
the
happened.
episode. How could you let that happen? Oh my goodness. Oh well. At least we know he can weld in circles. That's all right.
Yeah, I stayed on structural. I don't do the pipe, so we're very far apart from each other at the yard.
Does he work at Irving too?
Oh yeah.
You guys should have like a Irving flag on the front lawn. Like maybe you guys could be sponsored by Irving.
They did send us a onesie when I went on maternity leave, and it said future shipbuilder, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cute, but I don't think he's gonna wear it.
I think that's awesome. I would love to. Maybe I need to send you a little onesie CWB outfit being like Canadian Welding Bureau approved.
That would be awesome. I'll take a picture and send it to you.
What size is he in baby size?
Oh gosh, he's pretty much 2T now. He's only a year old, and he's in 2-year-old clothing.
I'm writing that down. So he's long like a worm, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's definitely growing like a weed. He's tall. Very tall.
Is your spouse tall?
Yeah.
That's where he gets it from. My ex-wife was tall, so my kids are both taller than me. But because I'm short, but I like being short. I think being short's cooler than being tall. Any day.
That's what all the short people say.
Yeah, but how often do you hear tall people say, "I love being tall"? Like never.
Now I usually hear
they bang their heads on things.
My head look like.
Yeah, they bang their heads on stuff, and they like can't dance, and they got big weird shoe sizes. And no, man, I'm 5'6". It's like perfect. Everything fits. I got normal size feet. I don't hit my head on anything. If something rolls under the couch, I'm the guy. I can get that. You know, like.
That's awesome.
So what's future plans for Cat? You know, like where do you see yourself? You got the ticket. Do you see yourself moving up and getting into like the supervisor kind of world, management role someday? Do you think about opening up your own weld shop? Do you do art? Any side hustles? Like what's on the game plan?
I do want to switch to an iron worker and be dual ticketed. I'd like to have my Red Seal on that as well. I also thought about potentially, I'm not really interested in the supervisor position at that particular location for that employer. Maybe if it was a different shop. Ideally, I'd like to do my own thing someday. My side hustle right now has nothing to do with welding. I do like a lot of wood burning and just like crafty stuff with live edge wood. I don't know. It's like my free therapy, I guess.
Skills,
but
transferable skills.
Artsy stuff. So I would love to be able to do welding stuff, but I don't have a garage or a welder. So that's that's the next thing on
next step.
Yeah, exactly. So once we get that, things will start rolling. But I'd like to be dual ticketed for sure.
Well, dual tickets are the future. Like I got my dual tickets, and it helped launch me into the next tier of work. You know, I got my welding first, and then I got my steel fab after.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends, he dual ticketed welder, iron worker, and he ended up being an iron working welding instructor, which was like dream gig for him. You know, and he loved it because he was working for the hall as an instructor, still could pick up shutdowns for work, but he was getting the teacher pension from like the college, so he had it like on all things. Unfortunately, he died last year in a motorcycle accident, so rip Terry. But you know, there is awesome opportunities out there for dual tickets, and in some ways I love it, in some ways I hate it, to be honest, because it's like if I think back to when I started welding back in like when dinosaurs roamed the earth, you didn't need any tickets, to be honest, right? You could just be the awesome welder in your shop, and you would get paid top dollar to do your job, and that was awesome. And the foreman was just a welder who had been there longer, who liked to do organizing stuff. So he got to be the foreman because he was better at organizing. You're better at welding, you're better at fab, everyone does their job. Then it started to be like, okay, well, you need to have certifications to weld. Okay, CWBs. You start getting tickets to keep the job. Fine. We always felt it was like a money grab. CWB is just here to take our money so we can keep our job. Rah, rah, rah. Then it was like, oh, you want to be a supervisor, you need to have a Red Seal. So that's like, it keeps getting like more difficult to climb without, like, you need some type of paper. It's not just skill anymore, right? And then for me, it was like, oh, you want to become a foreman, you need to get your Red Seal. Okay, so I got my Red Seal. And then it was like, oh, you want to be a teacher, you need to get a university degree or a second Red Seal. So I went and got a second Red Seal. And then I got my Blue Seal, which was business. And it's like, how hard is it going to be for kids coming up being like, if you want to be a welder, yeah, you can get your welding Red Seal. There's 3 years of your life. But what if in 10 years from now, that's not even enough? You know what I mean? Like, oh, you need to be triple ticketed now to find a job. It's like 6 years of school or something. I get that it's awesome to have dual tickets. I love it. I love both educations and I love what I do and it's helped me lots. And I think it's a good idea for you. But I also worry about the slope. You know, like I hope there's still jobs out there today for just people that want to weld. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, we need those people that just want to pull trigger all day. They make the world go around a lot more than a fancy welder like me that does this little doohickey for $1,000. Who cares? But we all need boats, right? We all need cars. We need these things, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just ranted there for a while.
No, it's I warned you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the rant. I'm just going off here. Like, the system's bringing us down. You know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I honestly thought that that's where my heart was at too. Like, I was like, no, I just want to weld. I don't want to do anything else. Like, this is my passion. I just want to weld. Now I'm starting to realize if I want to do my own thing, it is definitely a lot easier to be able to fab, fit, and weld all my own stuff. Mm-hmm. Just for my own personal gain and growth, and the way I'm kind of looking at the future for myself and my family. But I mean, I would like to think that we're always going to need just welders. And I don't want to say just welders, but like strictly welders, because it's a tough trade. And not everybody can handle it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're just pulling the trigger and following that little glow like a moth to the flame. And it's like, well, yeah, but no, you know? Like,
those welds are still getting tested. They're still getting QA'd. And you try doing, 600 feet of weld a day perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, look at some of the fancy things I'll make. And like, stainless was my gig. It's like, yeah, but I had all day to do one joint because it's super fancy and expensive. In production land, you don't got all day to do one joint. You got to do 6,000 joints a day and they all got to be perfect. So I feel like that's way more critical welding, than when you have the perfect scenario with all your gases and everything's clean and no one's watching you. I worked in manufacturing for years, and like, I really have a big heart for the people that are in manufacturing jobs, and I think they get a bad rap in the welding world. Like, I don't want to do that job. And I hear people even on this show all the time be like, I would never want to make the same thing every day. That's so boring. I don't like to slag other trades like that. Like, we need that. We need people to build our things, and they're just as important of a welder as anybody else, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of comments I heard about the shipyard where Brad is like, oh, you're a welder? Like, you must just sit on your rolly chair and weld all day. And I was like, fuck, dude, if you only knew. Like,
I wish I had a rolly chair.
No rolly chairs here. Like,
a crate with a t-shirt on top.
Yeah, it's like I'm getting sprayed with molten metal in my face because I'm jammed way up overhead in a place that no one else can fit. But yeah, I'll take a chair.
Yeah. Especially one of those fancy chairs. I always see people, like all the influencers always got these fancy welding chairs. It's like, man, I have like a milk crate with a towel taped to the top. And that's 100% because I'm cheap and weird. Because I probably could go buy one of those fancy chairs, but I mean, if anyone's listening out there and wants to send me a fancy chair, send me a fancy chair. Yo, I'll take it.
Oh man, yeah. If it works, it works, right?
Yeah. Now,
Don't fix what's not broken.
What's do you have any plans to get involved on like the community side of welding? Like, do you have any plans on working with the Halifax or Nova Scotia chapters? We have chapters out there, volunteer groups, women in trades programs, even like programs that you've worked with before. Like, as a Red Seal woman, there's so many opportunities for you to give back to industry that people would be all over and pay you for, even if you ever wanted to get into that side gig. Is that something you ever thought about?
I'm not going to say it didn't cross my mind. It's something that I haven't really had a whole lot of time, I guess, to think about. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I'm serious, like with the mom brain stuff now. Like, I'll think about things and I'll forget about them, and I won't remember until several months later. And I'm like, oh yeah, there was that thing. I do receive a few emails here and there for like conferences and stuff. Mm-hmm. I haven't actually gone to any. I would love to.
We were just in Moncton in October. It was like a wild conference. You should have come.
That would have been great. Mm-hmm. I think for me, the biggest thing is having the availability to take time off of work.
Well, and you're fresh mom still, right? Like, you're still, how old's your little guy?
14 months.
Yeah. So like, I mean, you're young, you got lots of time, but you know, just my professional advice would be, you know, in a couple years when things settle down, especially when kids get to like pre-K, then it gets a lot easier. Even if you have more, the first one's always a tricky one. After that, the rest are easy.
They just raise themselves.
Well, really, the older one always helps. It's just natural. Yeah. It's nature, right? But I would definitely, tell you to volunteer, work with your local communities. It'll help your career lots, even down the line. Just whatever you want to do. What I've learned in my life is you're never going to get anywhere alone. It's the people you know and who you meet out there. And if you don't get out there, people won't come to you. You got to get out there and shake hands and do the thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's getting really dark where you are, eh?
I was just going to say, like, I'm losing a lot of sunlight here, so I'm just going to click this light on
for
real
the people in the East Coast or listening to this podcast. Canada's huge, so I think they're like a 3-hour time. What are you? 5:30, 6?
4:34 right now.
Oh, you're only 2-hour difference from me. Okay, so I'm 1 hour off Toronto. I'm in Saskatchewan, so wow. Yeah, I was like, everyone makes fun of me for being in my dark cave, and you were darker than
it's like slowly getting darker and darker, and I was like,
All right. Well, we've had a great conversation here. For the people that are interested in learning about more what's going on in Nova Scotia, what's a good place for them to check out some information about Irving or welding or the programs you take? Like, if someone's moving to Nova Scotia, what do they do?
If they're interested in taking any of the courses at NSCC, I mean, I'm sure all of that information would be available on their website. Irving has a massive website. They're constantly posting opportunities on there. Mm-hmm. They're on LinkedIn. They're on Facebook, Twitter. They have their own webpage. They're everywhere. So they're looking for people all the time, and they're looking for everybody, like every position you can think of. They want you there. But for the Women Unlimited program, I believe there is still information on NSCC about that. But if not, feel free to reach out to me and I can point people in the right direction. Are
you on IG or any of the socials, or do you keep a pretty low profile?
I keep a pretty low profile. I have Facebook. My Instagram is my dog.
Good enough.
but I pretty much just use Facebook, really.
Awesome. All right. Well, any shout outs you'd like to send? Any hellos to anybody or messages?
I don't think so. Maybe my family, my partner, Johnny, my little guy, Henry. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kat, today for taking time out of your day, even though you're on holidays till January. Awesome. I'm not on holidays yet for another week, but I'm jelly. But thanks so much for taking time to talk to me today.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was great.
Awesome. And for all the people that have been following and listening along to the podcast, thank you so much for making us be the success that we are. We got lots of cool shows coming up, lots of cool stuff that we're planning out. We're already planning out for next year. And just put it in your calendars. February the 7th, we got Weld Industry Day online free conference. At the end of March, third week of March, we have National Trivia Night. So the whole country battles it out for welding trivia. That's between all the chapters where we crown the smartest chapter in the world, because now we are worldwide. So Chile will be dialing in to see how them Chileans do on their trivia. And then we got the huge CanWeld / FabTech coming up in Toronto in June 11th to 13th. So lots on the go, lots of cool stuff coming. I hope to see you at all of it, and keep downloading and sharing and commenting on the show. Stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the show.